Do you believe the moon landing was fake?
No, I believe it completely happened.
Well, it makes sense for them to fake it. Because, like, they'll probably be like, okay, let's just say we went to the moon first. And let's just, like, film it in, like, the studio and no one would know about it.
But the problem is twofold. Number one, you are taking on the endeavor of filming and faking a moon landing. How, number one, could everyone involved in that be kept quiet?
We probably paid them millions of dollars.
But then if you look at that, it happened in the 1950s. Millions of dollars, you're better off just sending a man to the moon.
Oh.
It costs the same amount.
Well, how many people were involved with, like, the moon landing? Like,
The entire National Space Agency.
okay, well, they could have bribed them with something else. Well, there's the thing I was just watching. They was talking about a director who made a movie. I think it was like a year before the moon landing happened. And then there was a lot of, like, the same camera angles and everything. So I think they hired that guy to fake the moon landing. It makes sense, like, when you watch the video that I was talking about, because it was like a lot of the same camera angles that the guy that directed this movie made. I think it was the director of The Shining. I can't remember his name. Something Stanley Kubrick or something like that. Yeah, there was a thing I was watching there talking about how he was hired by NASA because he was kind of close with them or something to fake the moon landing.
To make that happen.
Yeah.
Do you watch Mythbusters?
Sometimes.
They completely debunked the whole conspiracy. So the argument that the flag moves, which would make you think there'd be wind, they talked about how it's the absolute absence of wind that when they put it in the ground and moved it, it caused the flag to move. And then there was the comment on the lighting made it look like it wasn't relative from the moon to the sun, but people didn't take into account the time of year, which the shadows actually worked really well.
Well, like, there's one thing where they're landing on the moon, like, when they're landing on the moon, you can see a rock that has a perfect C in it. So, like, they would, like, props and stuff, they would organize them by, like, letters. So, like, C goes in that bin.
Right.
So why would there be a perfect rock with a perfect C on it?
Well, I think it's the same as how people are convinced there's the face of a human on Mars, and therefore there must be alien life. Yeah, and it's basically there's a human mental inclination that we see faces in things, like in tree trunks and things like that, where you'll see a face. And so it's that same idea of we have this natural inclination to notice, take random occurrences, and our brain will try to make sense of it by saying that looks like a C, when in fact it's just natural occurrence.
Well, wasn't there, like, multiple moon landings, like, where we went to the moon more than once?
After the first one, yes. There were 3 more, I think.
Well, it makes sense to do, like, maybe, like, the first one was real and then to stage the rest. That would make sense than just rather faking them all.
But the first one is the one, like, once you go there, it's easy to go again because you've figured out all the problems. And then the thing is the first moon landing was the most important because it was happening during the Cold War. And Russia and the United States were competing to see who got to go there first. So the minute the United States said, you know, we've put a man on the moon, they officially won the space race. But so I completely believe that there was a man on the moon, though I am interested in the theory of, what are they called? Missing cosmonauts. The idea that Russia sent manned missions into space to attempt it, and they failed, but they never told anyone because there were potential loss of lives because they were sending people up in rockets, and then they just kind of floated off into the ether.
Well, it would kind of make sense if they faked the rest. Well, was it the U.S. that went all the times, or was it multiple countries?
Russia was the first to get, I think it was, Russia was the first to get someone out of our atmosphere, but it was a monkey or a dog.
Oh, wow.
It wasn't a human. And then they came back, right? So then it re-entered the atmosphere and landed in water. But the United States was the first to get someone to the moon and then consequently back.
Well, there's one thing I saw that on the moon, there's one side of it that's like, that has aliens and stuff on it. Like, have you ever heard that?
Yes, I don't believe that either.
Well, I mean...
The dark side of the moon.
Yeah.
The side that never we see because it's always in shadow.
Well, what if there was aliens on that side? They just never said anything because they were...
Here's my thing with that, though. The moon is completely lacking in anything other than rocks. So if there were some alien station hanging out on the moon, spying on humans, we would know because our satellites are strong enough that we would be able to, and our, the things that we see into the sky.
Telescope.
Thank you. We have such strong ones that if there was someone, they would be coming back and forth with supplies, and we would see it. We would see, this movement of spaceships in the sky. And then really, what are they watching us for? Right? Exactly. Who knows? They just find, watching episodes of reality TV. They need to keep up on, The Bachelor and Big Brother.
Well, there's one thing I saw that when they went on the moon, they saw something like alien or something like. There was one thing. It was a thing I was watching about where the people that went on the moon were talking about how when they were in space they saw aliens and stuff.
Yes.
I believe that.
Yeah.
That would make sense if they're out in space trying to get to the moon and there were aliens. Wouldn't the aliens kind of be interested in what they're doing?
I don't know. I don't think it was Buzz Aldrin. I think it was another Buzz claimed that at some point in space they saw something like an unidentified spacecraft, which note that if it's called a UFO, it's called a UFO because no one knows what it is, right? So you can't say, well, it's a UFO and then next label it, oh, it's aliens, because we don't know. But he did say that he saw something that wasn't human made, and he believes it was, I think, an alien spacecraft.
It would make sense because it said even a dog is the same way. If you're doing something, a dog would come over and be interested.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of just aliens would probably do the same thing. If they saw someone trying to get to somewhere else, they would kind of be confused and probably stay around for a bit, to see what they're doing basically.
Or they're just on a trip.
Yeah.
And they happened to pass him. And they waved. Said, see ya.
Do you believe the rest of the moon landings were fake?
No, I think they were all real.
Well, it kind of makes sense did they actually have a live audience when they
yes.
shot off the rocket? What if they just made it so they went in space, they flew it around for a few months around the moon, then just came back and then faked the rest?
But that's so expensive. If you're going to do that, just land on the moon. But yes, it was live televised, the sending it off into space. And then NASA has full transcripts of the whole experience.
There's something I heard on another podcast that they filmed over the original moon landing that was on this certain tape that they used. There was a shortage of it, so they filmed over it apparently or something.
Why? Because they
needed this type of it was this type of. If you went to the X-ray machine, it would ruin this film.
Oh, okay.
That's what it was filmed on. Apparently, they filmed over it because there was a shortage of it.
And so then the conspiracy is that someone actually landed on the moon, but then they lost the footage. Yeah. So then they filmed it.
So it would kind of make sense, if the government was oh, let's just kind of just get rid of this film because maybe we caught something on it we don't want people knowing about.
Gotcha.
So it's just film over it, so no one would really.
So it's back to aliens again. Well, why would they be there? If they're on the moon, they're just going to show up at Earth and go, hey guys, we've been here for a while.
What if aliens have already been on Earth before us?
Then listen, they left for a reason. They looked at us and said, you need some work.
Well, it would kind of make sense if aliens were kind of like they were watching our planet to make sure we're not destroying the Earth.
Yeah,
I guess
potentially.
It would make sense. What if aliens are basically the government, sorta, of the Earth?
Where are you going with this now?
No, that's not what I mean. The aliens are kind of like the government, but they make sure we're not destroying the Earth in any way.
I think that here's my thing: is I truly believe there is other life in the universe, because I think it's pretty vain for humans to think that we are the only successful life form. But I think that if there was an alien life form that had the ability to travel and communicate with us, they would have done so.
Well, what if they already did? We just don't know.
And that's true.
Because it makes sense.
Okay.
So do you have anything else to say about this?
No, I'm quite good.
Okay.